got to commit to your family time.
And it was worse for you before we had the kids. Because before we had the kids and when we were young and it was just the two of us, you were on every specialty unit you could be on. You were going to every school that you could go to. And in all honesty, for a lot of time, I can remember even telling my mom one night whenever I was talking to her about it and just feeling so lonely and being home all the time. And I said, I feel like I'm single, yet having the responsibility of pleasing him when he's around. And it really made me bitter for a long time because I felt so slighted and so unloved, so rejected, so not wanted. Because, you know, my thought process was, you want to be on all these specialty teams because you have so much fun out there with the bike unit, the SWAT team, and all the stuff that you were doing. And I'm thinking, but you could have fun with me if you would just be with me. And especially for a young wife. And that's typically the time whenever guys will get the most out of balance with their work. Because like you said, you're young, you're trying to prove yourself. You want acceptance from your employers. You want to move up that ladder. And if it means sacrificing your family to do it, a lot of men are willing to do that. And it really took having our kids. And I think that was probably the first time that you started placing a priority on the marriage over work. And when we had our daughter, you took a month off work to be with her. Here, I don't know if it's a national law or not, but the family leave, is that?
Family medical leave.
Is that national?
Federal, yeah.
So everybody is able to do that. So he took a full month under that Family Medical Leave Act to spend with her and to bond with her. And that kind of started the process maybe of you realizing how important family was. But by this point, we had already been married almost 10 years. And so for almost 10 years, I was like a single person that had the responsibility of cleaning somebody else's clothes and cooking somebody else's food while they got to go out and play all the time. Because for you, it was fun. Your work was fun. You loved the SWAT team. You loved the bike patrol. You loved your job in general. And so you got to go off and play all the time, and you were having fun with it, and I was at home. And even if I could have been with my friends on occasions, I did do stuff. It's not like I just was always home 100% of the time, but most of the time I was. To me, it wasn't fun because I wanted to be with you. I wanted to experience life with you, and I wasn't able to do that. And so it is vitally important to make sure that is balanced. Definitely to make sure that's balanced. And you know what? If your employer is not a family-friendly employer and they don't support you wanting to make sure that family life is a priority for you, then you probably need to consider looking for another place of employment. Because I think the Bible is very clear that our first love should be God, nothing above God. And if your husband, if you are loving God the way you should and I'm loving him the way I should, then our relationship is going to naturally fall in line with each other. And so I think the Bible is clear on that. And I think that the second priority throughout the Word of God that you see is family. God puts so much priority on family. He instituted marriage. He gave Adam Eve in the garden, and he blessed that and told them to multiply and to have family. And all throughout the scriptures, you see the importance of family. And, you know, jobs come and go, but the amount of time that you were working really left me lonely, and it left me feeling rejected and like I just really wasn't good enough to demand your time and attention. And in all honesty, I think what it boils down to whenever men get their work out of balance, and women can do it too. I mean, we live in a culture now where women are being more driven by profession instead of family. And even women can be guilty of doing it too. And usually it's all driven by the same reasons. Needing approval and wanting people to love them and to think that they're smart and all the things that drive that. But in all honesty, I think if people would do an honest reflection, that it's rooted in selfishness. Would you think that?
I think so. I think for me, a small part of it, not real big, but a small part was the money aspect of it. Because you're trying to get ahead. You're trying to provide for your family, and of course back then we were trying to get out of debt, so I was working and working and working, you know, trying to accelerate that process. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and just not thinking about the side effects.
And that was a large part of it to begin with. And there are times whenever you get yourself in such a bind financially that you really have no choice but maybe to work 2 or 3 jobs, and and it may be a temporary thing. But for us, even when we got out of debt, we were completely debt free before we had the children. And even whenever we got out of debt, and I had gotten a much better job and was making more than you for a while, and money wasn't an issue, but that didn't at that point stop it because of how much fun you were having with it.
There was that drive there.
Yeah. And when you do work a job that you love, which, the old saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life because it's fun. And for you, law enforcement is fun, it's exhilarating, it's challenging, you got the adrenaline that's going.
Not so much now.
Well, yeah, now that you're older, and it's kind of lost some of its zeal. But at the time, because you loved it, you really loved it, you wanted to do as much of it as you could. And it really didn't matter how it was affecting me or how much I complained about it. And I think that's probably where the selfish aspect comes in, And that can go for women or men. Because there are things that women love just as much. Maybe it's just shopping. Maybe it's not even a job, but maybe it's shopping. Being out there and trying to find that latest and greatest deal and rush that you get from that, the adrenaline that starts pumping with that you could easily get so, I hate to use the word addicted, but really that's kind of what it is. You can get so addicted to that you begin to neglect time with your family or time with your spouse.
It's what drives you.
Yeah, right. And so I think that we have to always be mindful to self-check, am I out of balance? And ask the question, because you may sincerely feel you're in balance. Like, I don't think that if you, at that time in your life, I don't think that you would have felt you were out of balance because it just didn't register. And so ask the questions. That is why communication is the number one important thing in a relationship, and the number one thing that causes divorce, even above money and even above sexual problems, is communication. So ask your spouse, honey, am I spending enough time with you? Do you feel neglected? And they will be honest with you as long as you give them the freedom to be honest with you, and then weigh their words, because they're not going to be honest with you to hurt you. They're going to be honest with you because they have a need that's going unmet. So I think that it's very important to ask the question, am I spending enough time with you? And one of the things that I love is that when we were doing family life classes at the church for a while, we taught the couples, I even made up little postcards for them to put on their refrigerator about the love tank. We did a series on the love tank, and I made the little hearts. One heart was just the outline of a heart. One heart was like halfway blacked out and filled in, and then one heart was full. And I gave every couple in the class the cards, a set of cards, one for her and one for him. And I would tell them, put these cards on the refrigerator every day. And you have her card and his card. And let your spouse know by that, today my tank is empty. I need more from you. Today I'm half full, so give me a little something. And today I'm completely full. And when your spouse goes in for his breakfast juice or just throughout the day, whatever, he or she can see how you're feeling. And that is a great reminder, because sometimes you get busy with life, you don't remember to ask the questions. Am I neglecting you? Like, you don't remember necessarily, but those cards are a great way to keep it visual and to every day have that in front of you as far as are your needs being met. So that would be something that you guys could do. You guys can easily create those cards. Make 3 of them in a color, one for her, one for him. Draw you a little heart or whatever shape you want. Make one of them just the outline with the inside completely blank. Take another one and make that shape, and then color it halfway in, and then do a third one with it colored all the way in. One is for empty, halfway full, and then all the way full. And that is a really good way that you can communicate with your spouse that you're needing something from them. I think that as far as the balance part, that answers all of those as far as work, YouTube, family, and friends. Because for me, YouTube is fun but it's also turned into a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of filming, and even if the filming doesn't take very long, like if you watch a video that say is 5 or 6 minutes, or some of these, the Real Talks and the Cocoa and Cookies are a lot longer. So even a 20-minute video, you may have the concept that, oh, she just sat there for 20 minutes talking to her camera, but it's the editing that takes forever, because you have to make sure, if there's a phone goes off, or just different kind of things that may happen while you're trying to film. Like this particular video right here, we've had like 4 interruptions now. The battery died on the camera. The camera just stopped working at one time. One of the kids was trying to get a drink and her bottle popped and didn't mean for it to. Then I had an email that went off on my computer because I forgot to close it. And so all those things that may happen, and then to have to sit down and try to edit all that out and splice it all together so that it looks like one long flowing video. And so it really has become a lot of work, hasn't it?
A lot. Yep.
A lot of work. And especially the vlogs. Oh my goodness. When we do like Vlogtober and Vlogmas, we have a lot of fun with it. And during the day, filming isn't so bad. But at night, whenever I sit down to try to edit those, because like some of the days I've had like 70 different clips I've had to try to put together and try to reduce it down to a length that's bearable to watch. And that's hard. How do I balance that? I try to do that late at night, most of the time after you go to bed. There are some times that I'm still editing while you're up, but usually I start the editing once you're in bed. Or while you're at work, while the kids are doing school. Like Cocoa and Cookies I'll have done before you get home, before they finish school, and things like that. But there are other times that you just got to fit it in when you can, and so I know that it has taken away from family times at times.
A little bit.
And so it's just something that I think that this is a real great question, Tish, because I think it's something that you have to be very mindful of to make conscious choices, but keep the communication open. Because when you love something that you're doing, it can even just be a hobby. Like you didn't necessarily list that in this question, but it can even just be a hobby. Like guys like to sometimes work outside in the garage, and women like to do their planners and read, just different hobbies that you have. And if you're not careful, even that can get out of balance.
True.
And balance is key. It really is key, but it's work, isn't it?
Yep.
It's hard work. It's hard work. And it's tempting because, there are times like when you're home in the evening, you'll get phone calls from the guys at work or emails or significant events. Some of it you can't ignore because it's, he's the boss. And so if something major is happening, you have to leave and go and be there. But a lot of it is just one of the guys will just have something on their mind and they want to run it by you because they're afraid they'll forget before the next day. And it's tempting to answer the phone, but we have tried to make it a rule that, and he's tried to let the guys know, if it's not an emergency, then do not contact me on family time, because your job gets you more hours a day than we do. You're there at 8, you leave at 5, and then you're usually in bed around 10:15.
Yep.
So you're awake with us about 5 hours.
That's it.
And you're at work for 8.
That's right.
So in reality, work gets you more than we do, and so we've tried to set that perimeter and that boundary. And we'll do that one of these weeks in Real Talk with the Rose about how to set boundaries, because boundaries are important in a marriage, don't you think?
Big time. Big
time, in all kinds of ways. So that's a good one that we will touch on. So great question there, Tish. Hope we answered it somewhat for you.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
I think it's crucial too. I know we try to do it, but we all haven't always done it. Is they always recommend that you take 2 vacations per year. One as a family, but then one just husband and wife. So that way, as a family, you can re-energize, but then as a couple, you also get to re-energize.
Yeah, that's very important. And we've really missed that because since we started our housework in 2013,
that suffered.
Yeah, we have not had a vacation at all. And that's why a couple weekends ago, we wanted to stay in Tampa, and we weren't going to be able to. We wanted to stay on the beach. We told you guys about that, and it just didn't work out, but we miss those. And let me just speak to the ladies for a minute, because it's a little easier for the guys to leave the kids, because even though dads love their kids and they are bonded to them, there is a different bond between a mother and her children, because a mother actually carries that baby in her body, and that baby is part of her for 9 months. And the bond between a mother and child is a different bond, not a better one, just different. And so a lot of times it's hard for moms to get away from their children, especially if you think that you're going on a vacation, or that you may be going off to have fun and you're having to leave the kids home and they're going to miss out. And I was so guilty about that the first few times. I mean, even the whole time we were gone, I was constantly talking about them, thinking about them, talking about how bad I felt that I couldn't have them with me. But I heard a very wise lady one time make this statement, and she related motherhood to a car. And she said a car can only go so long before it needs gasoline and before it needs an oil change. A tune-up. And if you don't pull over to do that, the motor will blow. And she said it's the same way with moms, that moms give and give and give to their husbands, their children, and every which way. Moms are constantly giving, and they run out of fuel. And if a mom does not pull over to refuel or to tune up, she's gonna blow. And she said,
some new treads.
Yeah. And she said, don't feel guilty about taking that time away, because it's so important. And that really helped me with that issue, because I felt guilty. I thought my kids were going to think I didn't love them, and that I was just leaving them home. And they would make the comments, or if they were at their grandparents' house and we would take a date night and go out for a nice dinner and just have a date out, you went without us. And because they don't understand when they're little, and that can make a mom feel I don't know that it ever really made you feel guilty. Do you think that men handle that different than women? Or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just because it's different.
Right. And so that was one thing that I really had to learn, but I do highly recommend, even if you can't take 2 full weeks, that you take some time as a family and bond together, having fun and going off, getting away from home if possible. If not, at least take the time off work and do fun things at home together for a week. But if you can't take a whole week, at least take a long weekend,
Because you've got to remember that before the kids, there was just the 2 of you. Mm-hmm. And then after the kids get old enough and they move out, it's back to just the 2 of you.
Exactly. And I can't remember if we said it in this Real Talk or in last week's Real Talk, but we said it at some point about keeping your marriage a priority, because one day your kids are going to grow up and leave home. And you're going to be back to the 2 of you. And if you've lost each other along the way, and we've had our rough spots, and we'll talk about all that, that then they leave home, and then you're just like, whoa, what do we do now? And there were times that even during our relationship, even just the kids being gone for a weekend or being to their grandparents, I'd be like, it's just going to be us, because we had lost so much touch with each other. And because it's been 30 years, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing. No. And, you don't want your marriage to get to that point. You want to keep it alive. So definitely make sure that things are balanced at home. That was a great question, a great thing to bring up. And especially all of you, maybe you're just engaged and you're thinking about marriage, but all of you who are young and just starting out, things can get out of balance real quick and real easy. So make it an effort to keep things in check. So just want to thank you so much for your question this week, Tish. We enjoyed answering it, and we can't wait to answer some more next week, right? I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next video.